Good afternoon, everyone. Esteemed guests, representatives, and valued participants. A warm welcome to all of you for this mini symposium on menstrual health and hygiene and period poverty. This session is hosted by the Collective Action Against Period Poverty CAAPP Project, conducted by the Family Planning Association of Sri Lanka in partnership French Embassy in Sri Lanka in collaboration with the Selyn Foundation. And we are pleased to have the CAAPP Project donor with us today. Before we begin, I would like to invite the CAAPP Project donor Olivia Belme from French Embassy to address us.
Bonjour everyone. I just wanted to speak very briefly on the project. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this session on menstrual hygiene and period poverty. We're engaged for a 2-year project of 600,000 euros on menstrual hygiene and period poverty. We support the work of 13 NGOs across the country, focusing on north and central provinces, as well as capacity building activities and networking opportunities. The CAAPP project has also supported awareness events such as Period Proud in Colombo in 2023, and 2 months ago, a very successful Period Proud event in Jaffna in September. When we started the project, we wanted to focus on a bottom-up approach. That's why we proceeded with a call for grants, to let ideas and initiatives emerge. After more than a year and a half of project, still this approach will prevail. With providing sustainable sanitary products, for instance, or improving hygiene facilities in school. So this approach is successfully coordinated with the Family Planning Association of Sri Lanka. And I would like to thank you very much for your work. But I would also like to stress and highlight the commitment of authorities and other partners, including the one that are members of the steering committee of this project, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Women, UNFPA, French Development Agency, and European Union delegation. It's really a pleasure to work on a project where more people are getting involved and committed. And I know it's only one project among many other interesting initiatives on menstrual hygiene and period poverty in Sri Lanka. But I really hope it's helping to building this kind of platform where we can discuss this issue that is a shared matter between France and Sri Lanka. Merci, and looking forward to hear this session.
Thank you so much, Olivia Belme. Our moderator for this today is Dr. Ashmira Balasuriya, the technical advisor of the CAAPP project. She will provide the brief introduction to this session and introduce our presenters also. I encourage all of you to engage actively in this session and ask questions, share your thoughts. Let's engage in meaningful dialogue.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for a very interesting panel discussion on menstrual health, hygiene, and period poverty in Sri Lanka. Period poverty is a significant issue not just in Sri Lanka but also globally. But of recent times in Sri Lanka, there has been immense discourse on the topic. Period poverty is a complex issue. It's not just about giving people pads. It's much more complex than that. It's about the lack of access and affordable menstrual hygiene products, the lack of access to water and sanitation facilities, the myth, stigma, and discrimination menstruators face, and also about taxation on menstrual hygiene products. With all these problems, you will understand that there has to be a multi-pronged approach when we come to addressing period poverty. And compounding all these challenges, the cultural taboos, stigmas, we need open discussions around menstruation to prevent marginalizing menstruators. Approximately 50% of menstruators in Sri Lanka currently face period poverty. This panel discussion is part of our ongoing efforts to tackle the multifaceted issue of period poverty through meaningful dialogue and evidence-based advocacy. This session will highlight key areas such as national level discussions on menstrual health and hygiene management, along with relevant statistics and studies on period poverty in Sri Lanka. We will also share findings from a recent study on menstrual practices and policies and focus on eliminating stigma and discrimination while improving access to menstrual products. The objective is to create a collaborative platform where stakeholders can exchange knowledge, offer insights, insights and identify actionable solutions to break down barriers for menstruators, ultimately fostering sustainable and inclusive approaches to menstrual health and hygiene. We have three esteemed panelists with us today, all who have worked quite significantly in the field of period poverty in Sri Lanka. Our first presenter is Ms. Selyna Peiris, an attorney at law and also the director of the Selyn Foundation and creator of the Bleed Good movement, a multi-stakeholder collaborative platform to end period poverty in Sri Lanka. With a diverse and dynamic 15-year career, she's also the director of business development and next generation lead, Selyn Sri Lanka, a leading fair trade social enterprise in Sri Lanka. Through the Bleed Good movement, she has created significant strides in tackling period poverty through the development of a reusable menstrual pad, and she will be our first presenter. So we will go through each presenter, and at the end we will have a discussion where it's open for the audience to ask questions, and I hope for a very interactive. So we'll start with our first presenter.
So, thank you everyone. Thanks for having us at the Reprosex conference. So, I'll keep this brief and keep this concise so that we have more time during the end to discuss on the matters going ahead. So, Bleed Good is a movement that is created by the Selyn Foundation. And what we hope to do is really empower, educate and enable ecosystem to eradicate period poverty. So I will choose the next 5 to 10 minutes to really go through how we do that. But before we get to Bleed Good and what we do, I think it's important, especially when we are citizens trying to fight an issue that is faced especially by females in the country, to understand why we do what we do. So this is the context, but Selyn, which I also lead, is a social enterprise in the handloom textiles industry in Sri Lanka. Today is our 33rd birthday, so it's a kind of big legacy that I have to take on into the future. So during COVID, we realized, we faced a situation where 70% of our business was completely eradicated. And why that's important is because we serve and we work towards giving dignified, consistent income and livelihood opportunities for women. So when looking around, we thought, what is a product that can not just create that employment, but also solve a social issue? And absolutely the social issue during that time was the lack of access to affordable menstrual product. There were so many women in our communities, and when we looked around, 2.5 million women now in Sri Lanka live in period poverty. So how can we create sustainable, homegrown, locally driven, collaborative models to end this problem in Sri Lanka? Because if you look at 20 million, 2.5 is a percentage of that. And I think if, especially as females together with our allies, we can definitely solve this issue in Sri Lanka. And that is why Bleed Good was created. And in my introduction, I think, Rashi, you said co-created, and that's what it is. It is a co-creation. It is not a product of the Selyn Foundation. It is not something that we own. It is a collaborative platform that has come together with the different stakeholders, inviting the different stakeholders, create this transformative effort to end this the problem in Sri Lanka. First, it started as a small project with a buy one, gift back kind of model. So every time we would sell product, we would gift back into the community. And in that way, we actually managed to also, with the assistance of donor funding, with various organizations who came together, really work on our own communities in Kurunegala, right? But then, of course, I'm ambitious and I don't want to stop in Kurunegala. And there were learnings and lessons that we learned, which we believed should be shared with the rest of the country and even globally. So while this kind of social enterprise model fuels the donation of the pad, from the outset, we were very clear that we will not do any donations for a photo opportunity. It was for the purpose of that transformative change. And that is where we looked. We found ARCA initiative. We worked with the FPA in certain instances. We worked with other organizations to really come together to give that menstrual hygiene education and awareness while we donate. Actually, the donation is like the cherry on the cake situation, but 3 hours of Dr. Satyani mostly sitting with those women and talking to them about where their period comes from shouldn't be transformative in their lives, but it is. And that is the beauty of what this movement is about. And it is that combination of providing something that will ease their burden for a period of 2 years, but more so giving the education and awareness, which I believe is a truly, what I said, the homegrown sustainable solution that is bleed good. So we have worked in that way. Initially, we worked some refugee communities in the Negombo area. Then, like I said, largely in Kurunegala area, we've worked with in schools, in rural schools, in temples where monks have opened the session. I think the first time we did it in a temple, I didn't expect the monk to come to open the session, but he did. And I don't think you remember, Satyani, and the mood was already, there was a authority that has said it's okay to talk about. It was one of the, I think, the most vibrant sessions that we had. And now we have worked in briefly in the plantation community where we are learning that what is the best solution for them out there. We worked in orphanages and we also hope to work in prisons, and largely, and we are open to collaborating with anyone who wants to work together with us to solve this problem in Sri Lanka and globally. I mean, I'm not going to preach to the choir here. You guys all know the problem. But if we talk about the first aspect of what we do, and that is the affordability element. So this product is in a sense, we donate a pack of 8, which is a 2-year solution for any one single individual. So the monthly the burden on their monthly spending is reduced. So of course, the donation, in the same time, we create jobs also in the Kurunegala district for the social enterprise, or rather within the social enterprise that we work in. And then in the education component, like I said, we work with organizations like ARCA to work on the to bestow that knowledge on menstrual hygiene and reproductive health. We worked with the Ministry of Health with the Suanari program in some instances where we had given access to reproductive health clinics. There was times when people didn't even know what a pap smear was. There was a time when a 60-year-old unmarried woman was refused to given a pap smear. So, I mean, these are then the points for advocacy that we learn so that we can come back to Colombo, fight for this, right? And this is what the Bleed Good movement enables. We work with the grassroots trust, the child protection force to use these sessions to raise awareness or to open discussions about gender-based violence. It's so interesting to see how the mood shifts from a largely cordial one to one of tension when we talk about gender-based violence in these communities. So this platform then becomes a space for people to come together. They of course get the pads, but they leave with networks and knowledge and helplines and numbers, and that is really the beauty of this. And that's where the enabling part comes together, that it is a platform of people who want to drive this change that are doing this together. So these are the partners that we worked with together. So we see as collaborators and visionary sponsors. I wanted to also show this to highlight the wonderful different kind of organizations who are part of this network. And this is some of our impact figures, and I will get to some of the learnings, which is the most important point in this session, that while we have consistently learned from the first pad we donated, we have asked our communities, does this work for you? If it doesn't work for you, why doesn't it work for you? Has the quality of your life improved? Are you satisfied with this? Is it leaking? Is it absorbing? Is it, what do you think of the education session? And we have consistently changed our model with every workshop to become better. And if I say we are there, we are absolutely not. We keep learning, and that is the point of what we are trying to do, right? And goes without showing that it's not only sometimes about the social part of what we are doing, but also the environmental impact that we are kind of eradicating by using the disposable pad, which is, I think, a whole different topic we might not have time to get into. But there is a requirement to talk about the environment and climate justice in the work that we do within the social sphere. So the learnings, I think when it comes to usage, first, I don't know what on earth, why I even did what I did. We first donated 2 pads. I mean, what can you do with pads, right? So eventually in the next session, we had then made 8 pads, a pack of 8 pads, and then that is a 2-year solution. And what we find in our communities is while there is a bit of a hesitancy because it's not convenient to use the pad, easier to adopt because some of them are already using the cloth. And yes, I think in this session we can talk about the various different opinions and research on that as well. But we find it an easier adoption to perhaps say a cup, but not to say that there's a very valid reason to use a cup as well. And there are instances when that is the only option, right? But we found in the pad that there is an easier adoption, and some communities also need panties when we are distributing the. And then water detergent, some of it can be used as the reusable pad can be used during the light flow days. So it's a combination. And I quote Dr. Asanthi when she constantly says it's cafeteria of needs. It's an option. It's choices. Let's not push one thing into our communities, right? So when it comes to the washing, it, yes, of course, requires a certain level of running water and mild detergent and soap, which is the pad that is kind of available at the moment, but we are innovating to kind of meet these demands. Then though thorough washing is essential, and education on care and care instructions are available in all 3 languages. So when we go into Tamil speaking communities, we have Tamil speakers and translators who are there in the community actually giving this knowledge. Then the drying, sun drying is recommended but challenging in densely populated and cold areas. So actually I wouldn't recommend perhaps this pad in a completely cold plantation. And I'll be the first to say that, because there should be a responsibility when we are doing these kinds. But then is it to say, no, the pad is bad for everything? No, it's to say, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board. What works for this community? How can we innovate? How can we create to give those solutions, right? And I think the main key lesson is that one pad does not all, and that's what I alluded to. Any solution has to have a range of reusable period products that are exposed to the communities. And because maybe it's too late at donation stage, you have to think before you donate what you need to donate or how you need to do it. So this is where I think those of us in the room who are advocates and decision makers and donors and doctors and in the wide stakeholder group that is in this conference, we do need to go that extra mile to understand why we are doing what we are doing. And that is something that's very essential for all of us to come together to do. And like I already said, menstrual hygiene awareness is a crucial component. No distribution should happen without that awareness. And again, continuous learning is required in order to ensure that there's a sustainable solution. I mean, I'll be the last one who wants to end my life knowing that there is a pad that doesn't work in our communities, right? We are all female, we all bleed, we know how it feels. So the Bleed Good movement is really about understanding that there are different needs, there are different ways we flow, and that when we bleed, it has to be something indicative. So this pad, which is also in the stall outside, is tested to UNFPA specifications. We have been invited by the Sri Lanka Standards Institution to also, amongst other stakeholders, to drive standardization of this in Sri Lanka, which is very, very important. And it's going at a fantastic speed, which is wonderful to see. And we are hoping that by the end of this year, there will be a standard for this in Sri Lanka. And I think what I kind of want to say and end with is that whatever we do as stakeholders and citizens, we have to understand that we are serving a community. They are not just people and whatever on the ground, that we have to take this back and we have to go out of our way to give those correct solutions together. Thank you.
Thank you, Selyna, for that very informative presentation. I think it's so important to highlight that one pad doesn't fit all, and it's all about choice and access, similar to contraception. And like Selyna said, there are certain communities where the reusable pad, while it sounds like a great idea, might not be the ideal solution, especially in plantation communities where sunlight is so rare. You can't completely dry a pad, and that is unsafe to then use, right? So thank you for that presentation, Selyna. We'll move on to our next presenter, Ms. Nadhiya Najab from CEPA, who will present the latest research we've conducted on menstrual health and hygiene practices in an area in Colombo. Our second presenter, Ms. Nadhiya Najab, is a senior research professional at the Center for Poverty Analysis, CEPA, leading the Gender and Development thematic. With over 10 years of research experience, she focuses on post-war resettlement, indebtedness, unpaid care work, and livelihood opportunities for marginalized groups with a strong emphasis on gender. She specializes in monitoring and evaluation using the MEAL framework and is dedicated to creating evidence-based, unbiased policy recommendations for gender equality.
Thank you, Rashmira. And good afternoon, everyone. So today, as Rashmira said, I'll be presenting selected findings from the research we undertook which looks at exploring menstrual practices, stigma, discrimination, and access to menstrual products and WASH. The research was made possible due to Shanti Margam choosing us at CEPA to undertake this research as part of the CAAPP project. And we also like to take this opportunity to thank FPA and the Embassy of France for funding this project. So the research team at CEPA, two of them are also here with me today. So if you have more questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so let me run through the objectives of the study. So the study was commissioned essentially because we recognized that there is a gap in research. Dr. Asanthi had done some excellent research, but several years ago. And since then, there hasn't been comprehensive amount of research for the whole of Sri Lanka. That's not to say that our research itself did that either. We did it in Colombo in selected locations, and we targeted settlement because Shanti Margam planned on using the research findings to be implemented in these lower income communities. So what the purpose of this study was to explore the respondents' knowledge, their attitudes and practices related to menstruation, and to understand what products they used, what wash facilities they had, and then also to answer these research questions. So as you can see, we asked a whole host of questions. We tried to understand the awareness and perceptions about menstrual practices which are influenced by ethnicity, religion, economic factors, geography. We also wanted to understand what menstrual products were available, what people were aware of, what they used. We also wanted to understand what barriers were there in accessing certain products. Selyna already mentioned there are new products that are coming out like the menstrual cup, the reusable sanitary napkin. These are all new alternatives looking at sustainability. But are people aware of this? Are they able to access it? Can they use it? Do they know things? These are things that the research study looked at. We also wanted to understand whether access to these products or knowledge about menstruation or practices led to affecting school attendance of menstruating individuals, and whether this was also then connected to access to wash facilities or cultural stigmas or taboos. And finally, the study culminated with providing some recommendations which would assist in organizations or individuals providing either knowledge, improving knowledge, or providing, changes in practices to the targeted population. So just a caveat, we have a very little amount of time, so I'll only be presenting a few selected findings from the study. So let's just quickly touch on the methodology adopted for this study. We used a mixed methods approach. So there was a desk-based review. We also did a household CAAPP survey, which is a knowledge, attitudes, and practices survey. We also did a qualitative data collection to supplement the quantitative data, which involved focus group discussions and key informant interviews. And we also obtained ethical clearance to conduct this study. The quantitative data was analyzed using Starter, and we used descriptive statistics and non-parametric cheese tests. And for qualitative data analysis, we used NVivo. So just to situate the study, we did have some limitations. When we were using the census, which was last updated in 2012, we found that one of our sample locations, the population had actually changed. Things like the settlements had either shut down, people had been asked to relocate. So that did affect our sample frame to some extent, but we did adjust accordingly. And one thing to remember in the findings that I am presenting today, they cannot be generalized for the whole of Colombo or the whole of Sri Lanka. You do need to keep that in mind. It's just a general indicator of trends and practices that people are following. So just a brief insight into our survey sample. We reached 602 women and girls who were between the age of 15 to 49 who were menstruating. They were distributed along 3 DS divisions of Colombo, Srijavardhanapura and Thimbrigasaya, and we covered 9 GN divisions. And the age groups were distributed, as you can see, into these sub-age categories. The demographic profile also of our sample is pretty close to the Colombo population distribution, but again, not identical. All right, so let's jump straight into the findings now. How would you refer to menstruation? These are just a few of the more common phrases we asked our respondents. They were familiar with the term menses, period, but they also used phrases like bade amaru, which means stomach ache. So this came about in both local languages of Sinhala and Tamil. They also said things like anga suddha venava, or they also said this in Tamil. So that means that your body is cleansed, implying then that the body has dirty blood that is leaving your body. There were also phrases used to refer to menses like date or even sick. Some of the more uncommon phrases that came up was to refer to menstruation as tsunami or beetroot. Now these, for us ourselves as researchers, were quite unusual, but we realized these are phrases that you'd have to understand and refer to if you're going to talk about this to other respondents or conducting interventions. All right. So one of the first things we asked in our knowledge, attitude, and practices survey was how many of the respondents were aware of menstruation prior to menarche. And menarche is when first have menstruation or you become a big girl. An overwhelming 58% said they had no prior information or knowledge. And we found that this was significantly associated between age, where interestingly, those who were of a younger age category, so between 15 to 29, were more aware of menstruation prior to menarche, while those who were in the older age categories were less likely to have known about this. So this does show that things are changing, but for this many people to say that they do not know, it is a problem. It means that when it first happens, they could either be scared or they could then get information from unsound resources or get misinformation, which are things that we need to address. Primary source of information for those who did say they knew was their mother. So this is also something to keep in mind, where if you are going to do awareness programs, then perhaps you should be targeting a mother. So that would be the trusted family member to provide info. Now, another fact is that while we said that, say, I think it was 57% said it was the mother who gave them information, it was only 9% who said they learned it from schools. Schools are meant to be able to provide you with verified scientific knowledge. Now, that being said, there is pretty comprehensive syllabus from the health and health sciences textbook from grade 7 onwards. However, grade 7 is at least 2 years older than the average age of when an individual reaches menarche. So this should ideally be at an earlier age. As you will see, among our survey respondents, 97% of them said that they would prefer if they got information prior to menarche and that they should be educated in the school. All right. One other bit of information is that there are these additional handbooks which are available in the eTakshala website. But the problem with this though is that it's only available then to those who have access to internet facilities, and they're also available only in Sinhala at the moment. So then it also ends up being slightly discriminatory for readers or learners in Tamil language. All right. So we showed the respondents of our study 2 sheets of all these products, and we asked them to tell us if they recognize these products or had they used any of them. Interestingly, 98% of our survey sample said that they have used a single-use sanitary napkin. But also, we need to recognize that this sample is located in an urban locality. It's pretty easily accessible. If not, affordability is another question. But we also asked them about, see the statistic about things like cloth, the menstrual cup, the reusable sanitary napkin. We see that 32% of the respondents said that they have used cloth at some point of life, and this was more common among respondents who were of an older age category. And when it comes to the reusable products like the cup and the reusable sanitary napkin, it was only commonly heard of by approximately 30% of our survey sample. And this was interesting because they said they had heard about it or seen it in social media, but they weren't sure about how to use it. So there is a bit of a transition that is still required. From our qualitative data, what we found was there was an increase in use of cloth, but again, that was by respondents who are older. So mothers, when they had multiple menstruating individuals in a household, they were likely to resort to using cloth and making the single-use sanitary napkin available for their daughters. Now, during Menarche, because of different cultural practices or religious associations, there are different practices among the respondents, and this is seen in Sri Lanka. We find that some of the most significant practices include being isolated. Now, for households with lower space in their household, if there weren't these respondents or person who attained age was not able to isolate in a single room, they were then kept inside the house without being able to see or look at a male family member or friend. For some households, they told us that when they didn't have a separate room, they would sometimes just draw a string and cover it with a sari to continue that practice. Now, these findings were significantly associated based on an individual's ethnicity. Most highly practiced among Tamil respondents, with 95% of them saying that they stayed in isolation, followed by 90% of Sinhalese respondents and 80% of Muslim respondents. But overall, we find that almost 90% of them of our respondents said that they were in isolation. When it comes to having a big girl party, we had 69% of our respondents saying that they did have a big girl party. But again, this dependent or prevalence of having a big party was influenced by one's ethnicity or religious identity. Other practices included bathing at an auspicious time or waiting to bathe until an auspicious time. And that we had 68% of our respondents saying that they would wait after they attained menarche. One of the other significant findings was about staying away from school. So obviously, when they stayed away from school, that was also because of isolation. And we found that those who followed Hinduism stayed away on average 16 days, but we also found them staying away for at least 30 days. And this was reiterated when we did a study in Nuerelia. Almost all our respondents said that they stayed away for at least 30 days. In the intro, I'm going to skip over this slide and jump to menstrual pain. We had 70% of our survey sample tell us that they experienced some form of menstrual pain. And the most common types were abdominal pain, leg pain, or headache. And individuals between the ages of 15 to 19 were more likely to report pain compared to older respondents. One interesting finding we did have was that the most common form of pain relief was having painkiller, taking something like a paracetamol, followed by having a hot beverage, or even ignoring the pain. There was misconceptions among those who did take painkillers, or they chose not to take painkillers because they were afraid of delayed periods, disruption to blood flow, a heavier flow in the next month, or even fertility. This does tell us that there is room for dispelling these misconceptions. I wouldn't call them myth because these are things that they believe in, but perhaps there is a need to provide this additional information through more legitimate sources. So then let me jump straight into recommendations. So one of the most important aspects that obviously came through is the need for increased knowledge and access to credible information. We can use things like existing technology. There are apps now which allow individuals to chat in a non-invasive way. You don't have to go talk to some unknown person about something that's considered very private. You could also use any local language. This would be perfect among the younger generation, considering the reliance on digital technology. There's also the need to consider who you are targeting and the timing of these awareness programs. If you are targeting mothers, are these mothers then working mothers or not? Are you then going to target these programs during the day, or is it during the week? There are factors that should be considered, as well as if you are going to target men and boys as supporters of menstruate, you do need to think about how you're going to have this conversation. The need to capacitate teachers is also something that's important to ensure that they have the necessary knowledge. They are not shy to give students knowledge. And lastly, something that Selyna said as well that I'll reiterate would be promote choice in selecting a menstrual product that suits each individual depending on their. That's it.
Thank you, Nadhiya, for your presentation. Our next speaker is Dr. Asanthi Balapitiya, and she will present on her experience with menstrual health and hygiene and the national level discussions currently occurring. Our final speaker, Dr. Asanthi Fernando Balapitiya, is a consultant community physician with over 25 years of expertise in public health and clinical practice as the Deputy Director and Head of the Health Communications and Life Skills Unit and the Media and Publicity Unit at the Health Promotion Bureau under the Ministry of Health, Sri Lanka. She spearheads initiatives in sexual and reproductive health, menstrual health and hygiene, and sexual and gender-based violence. And I know personally she has pioneered really, I think, with her research in menstrual health and hygiene. We have so little research, and she's one of the few researchers who've done work in this field.
Good afternoon. To express my gratitude to the organizers of PA as well as the CAAPP Project giving me the opportunity to do the presentation. So as a girl child, as a woman and as a healthcare professional and a researcher who had done his dissertation and thesis on this subject area, as a national level program mediator and as a international committee member of the menstrual health 10 team, I would like to take back for you that 4 years, decades experience with my so this is something regarding the menstruation. I know menstruation is a natural phenomenon which occurs in the mature females from menarche to menopause, and so it's menstrual health. So it's a very crucial aspect of women's health and its influence in their overall well-being and quality of life. In Sri Lanka, we know nearly 52% of the population in the female, and among that, nearly 26% is in the reproductive age. When we addressing issues related to the, especially with this group, so we are going to address the issue in the more than a quarter of population. So, as we know, menstrual health and hygiene management, it is encompasses with the practices and the resources that which need girls and the women to manage their menstrual with dignity and privacy. So actually we need to provide the facilities to address this issue, right? So we'll see. So there are so many things are going to contribute for this to promote the menstrual health and hygiene. In that, cultural context is the crucial component of under this menstrual health and hygiene. So as we know, Sri Lanka with a proud history of more than 2,500 and with the diverse nation, so especially it's characterized by multi-ethnic, multi-religion and multi-cultural background. So they are still in Sri Lanka. Menstruation is a taboo. We know so many communities, there are some restrictions, especially with regard in this period. I think it has mentioned in the last presentations as well. So what will happen with this restriction? So this and especially with these myths and taboos, which give us to the misinformation. So what will happen with the misinformation? Misinformation leads to stigma. So stigma can cause a lot of problems, and with this stigma, ultimately, it's going to affect the health and well-being of the women. So basically, we know this cultural context is going to be one of the barrier for the menstrual health and hygiene. So the next crucial component under the menstrual health and hygiene is the accessibility to sanitary products. As we know, sanitary products are access now not in the modern context. So there are variety of things available due to this open economy and this transition of the technology transition, and especially of the migrations. We can see a range of sanitary products are accessible and available. So it can be ranged from the traditional methods like the cloth to what we mentioned. It can be a reusable cloth, then the disposable cloth, even menstrual cups, menstrual panties, then the other thing like menstrual discs. It's like Peiris. So not like those days. The modern girl and women, they have some options according to their preference, availability, according to the feasibility and their social economical status. Look for a preference. But is there when we consider actual situation in the Sri Lanka, will all the girls and women get an equal opportunity choose what they want as a choice? No, actually it is not. So there are so many restrictions are there. One of the things is as we know, the economic problems, the economic downturn is the main problem, and we can see if the poverty, according to the household period poverty rate in 2016, it was reported as a 50%, and in 2019 it has come to the 40%. With this economic crisis, it has come down. So then what are the actions already we have taken? Yes, it's good. As we know, as a UN organizations, most of them also here, and this CBOs, NGOs, they had urged, especially to the government, to reduce the tax, especially with regarding this menstrual hygiene products. That is a good trend that we can. So another important area, especially with regarding the comprehensive information of the menstruation, so education and the awareness is the most important area. So according to the study done by me in 2012, I have identified the overall knowledge, satisfactory knowledge, only the 25% among the students. So then what are the steps we have to take to get rid of this, to improve the awareness and knowledge? So for that, we know a role of the formal education has to take a big role, especially education ministry. We know they have a formal curriculum, and they are the people giving the most of the education for the children. So that we have to strengthen that education system. So one good thing with that, even recently they have included that menstrual hygiene part to the curriculum. Even before that, it hasn't addressed. So that is one of the good thing. I think the previous speakers also talk about. Especially we developed some with collaboration with the Ministry of Health. We developed some materials for the grade 5 school children, Malsamaya Langai. That is also available in the Itaxalava website. That is also one advantage. And another good thing is going on. So we are collaborated with the Education Ministry, and we start to develop the capacity of the teachers. Teachers are playing role to convey one message to the children. So in other sense, we know in the traditionally in generations that information is transferred from one generation to the another generation mainly by the informal pathway. There, of course, we know mother, grandmother, aunts and uncles, they had to run a big role for that. So that is also one thing. Even still, our girls like to get the information from their mother. So always we have to empower the mother in that. And another thing we have to see, I know that is a good trend. We know how much work that CBOs are, NGOs are especially doing to empower this social mobilization at the community level. So we have to appreciate their activities also. And another thing, not like earlier, media also playing a big role. Especially develop a lot of initiations has taken place to have a developed social dialogue to remove the stigma, as well as the especially empowering the female. So these are then let's see what are the health and other implications with regarding to the menstrual health and hygiene. These are the some of the evidence we gathered from the researches conducted by the health ministry. So one is the poor menstrual hygiene. It was reported under 2.7, and regarding the school abstinence, that also it was also reported as 44% it's been absent from the school due to menstrual related problems during the year preceding the survey. And another area we have to address, premenstruals, was reported 0.57 in a study conducted among the adolescent girls in Colombo. So another area, the menstrual disorder, also we have to consider when we talk about the menstrual health and hygiene. According to the study conducted in the OPD of the Provincial General Hospital Ratnapura, the prevalence of the menstrual disorder was reported as 39% among females between ages of between 18 to 50. These are the some health and other we receive regarding this. Actually, menstrual health and hygiene one of the poorly acknowledged area for the decades, if not for the centuries. So then, so when we talk about especially the menstrual health and hygiene, it not encompasses not only the menstrual hygiene component, it also addresses the human rights, then the gender equality, education, health, well-being, empowerment, environment. So that there are so many covered by the menstrual health and hygiene. Even if we want to achieve the SDG goals, there are some like 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, and 10, 12. All these goals we have to, they all are associated with the menstrual health part. So actually, Sri Lanka has taken a step at the government level, at the national level. We had created a national working team. Altogether, there are 9 stakeholders. Ministries are there. Health Promotion Bureau under the Health Ministry. We initiated a national working team, and and especially we have developed a platform to address this issue. Right. Another good initiative also government has taken. I think in our previous sessions also we talk about. In spite of this economic downturn, government has taken a decision to give free pad distribution. That is one of the good area, a good initiative already we have taken. So I have to rush my presentation even though time has limited. Please excuse me. And this is another thing, another big area we have to address. This is something, community engagement is another part. To promote the community engagement, this here, there's a big platforms are there. One is Health Promotion Bureau, as we have developed some communication, social media communication messages are there with a good framework and the good indicators. That gives us, when we applied some programs, we can monitor our program progress by using this framework. And we have to appreciate the French Embassy CAAPP project also. We already technical guidance given by the Health Promotion Bureau. So this same, we are all working for the common goal. This is one of the positive thing. Another, we are going to train the health staff, as well as we are going to train the another education ministry also. All these are going to give a positive impact for the our program. Right. This is another thing we have to address. To have a sustainable practices, we have to address some aspects. The one key aspect is the environment friendly products, as mentioned by the previous presenters. We have to go, especially we have to protect the environment. This is a big challenge we have. So like we mentioned, we have to go for the promotion of biodegradable and reusable menstrual products, reduce environmental. So as a results of the working committee, the national level, so until now we had only this cell size standard for the reusable pads and the panty liners. Here we are working for these reusable sanitary pads, as well as for the menstrual cups. Working is nicely going on. So that is one of the good outcome as a working together. So another thing, the waste management is going to be a real problem, not only for Sri Lanka, in the worldwide. And Sri Lanka faces challenges, especially with the sanitary waste disposal. Landfilling, open burning, and burying of menstrual waste is not recommended. So even the environment policy, they have addressed the method of how we are going to do this sanitary waste management. And here now we have to go for the private partnership. This is some areas, there are some issues that further we address to reduce this problem with the menstrual health management. And another thing, so the good outcome of our work. So these days we are developing a national guideline. It is not available in the other countries, especially for the menstrual health and hygiene. This is developed by the microbiologist college. So we are going to validate. Another good area, research. Only there are so many researchers are conducting locally, but actually to identify the national problem and the national thing, we have to do a national research. So there, of course, with the help of the UNFPA, we are conducting a research this year. We have taken the ethical clearance. Probably this year and the next year we will going to do a national research. Then we will identify these are our objectives, the knowledge and attitude, and understand the barriers and the challenges. Definitely next year onwards we can develop a nice program to promote the menstrual health and hygiene. So at conclusion, so enhancing menstrual health and hygiene in Sri Lanka requires a multifaceted approach. It's the thing. All the people should come on board to do this one, and that addresses cultural, economics, and educational barriers. By fostering collaboration and awareness, we can create a society where women thrive during their menstrual cycle, dignity, and health. That is our wish. That is all our wish. That wish will come true in future. So hope for the best. Thank you for, with the limited time, I had done a quick presentation. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Asanthi, for that enlightening presentation. And we're very, very sorry about the time constraints. Due to time limitations, we can take one or two questions from the audience, preferably one or two.
Hi, good evening. So my name is Rubina and I work for an organization called MAS Holdings. So for over 3 decades for a period of time, we have been conducting a lot of training and we have reached out to communities, especially on menstrual hygiene and menstrual health. I'm also leading a program called Women Go Beyond, and I look into women's advocacy in a division of 17 factories in Sri Lanka and across the globe. So we all talk about this subject. We know that there is some work being happened, but as a peer trainer, I would like to share a few of my thoughts and my experience, and my question will go to Dr. Asanthi. So when you go to schools and when you teach this education, we get a clearance from the schools and we show them the content, and this is what we are going to talk, and these are the products that we are going to show. And the first question they ask is, are you going to teach this in front of the boys? Are we going to use words called yoniya, vagina, vulva? We should not talk about those words. You should use chupatta, kakipatta, things, words like that. And even if you show a picture, there's a lot of stigma and taboo surrounded about that. And when you ask a child, are you on your periods? Do you know how it starts? No. Mata maasakata ledak hadenawa, germ ekak hadenawa. That's how that's what they've been told. So what are we doing? Like, I know a lot of organizations, private constitutions are doing a lot of work on this space. But as the government, what are we doing? And I've never seen, sorry to throw this question, I've never seen those curriculum or anything, because when I speak to children even, they say, teacher කියලා දෙන්නේ නැහැ. Teacher කතා කරන්න බයයි. Teacher ලැජ්ජයි. So,
Sorry, due to time constraints,
yes,
can we just get the
yes.
question across?
So what are we doing and what can we do?
I think good question. This is a big issue. This is a big challenge for everybody. So CSC is a big challenge for one. I think yesterday from the some sessions also we talk about. So we all have to good together. That's why Parliament caucus also asked. That's why Health Promotion Bureau, other than the Health Education Ministry, they are doing a formal education. So we had taken the responsibility to work with you and to give, at least to give the information. So it takes time, but there's a positive trend we can see. So these even these platforms, even this conference also given a good positive things for them. So we all have to together, because it's a very sensitive area. We know how much difficult to address these issues. So as a Health Promotion Bureau, always we help in the Health Education Ministry also. Big issue is the communication issue. Stuff there. So sensitive area. So there are misleading things are there. So we have to brainwash and brain. So this is the thing. Open dialogue. Create, at least you do whatever you can in your level. So ultimately by another 10 or another 1 or 2 decades back, this will be get to normalize, right? So we all have to work together. This is the big challenge. I think during this since yesterday, these are the issues we are addressing. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, due to time constraints, we've been asked to finish the session, but our panelists will be available outside. If you have any further questions, you're more than free to ask them. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you.